People have been asking and pressing Donald Trump for clarification on his stance on abortion in a potential second term. And we are very familiar with his record, so we don't really need to hear from him what his stance is. We already should know that he's wrong on the subject of reproductive rights, but people have been asking him for a stance. Give us a stance. And he released a video to do just that. And this is a disaster for his campaign. My goodness, to the point where a friend of the show, Brett Meiselas, wrote on X, Trump's abortion video may have been the biggest miscalculation ever made by a candidate in history. So big stuff. Launching a political nuke at his own campaign. Can you imagine? And I'll go along through this video, explain what he's saying wrong as he goes. But please, while we do that, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Just click that subscribe button. Makes a huge difference. Here it is.
Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade.
False. All legal scholars did not demand that be ended.
They wanted it ended. It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The concept of having an abortion in the later months and even execution after birth, and that's exactly what it is. The baby is born, the baby is executed after birth, is unacceptable, and almost everyone agrees with that.
So just exudes desperation when he has to so blatantly lie, as we've walked through the details of many times in the past on this particular lie, so blatantly about his opposition. That means he can't, in a fact-based way, explain why he has a better stance or a more popular stance on this subject.
My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart, or in many cases, your religion or your faith. Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. Do what's right for our country and vote. So important to vote.
So this is what we call in the biz a word salad. This is just platitudes and mumbo jumbo.
At the end of the day, it's all about will of the people. That's where we are right now, and that's what we want, the will of the people. I want to thank the 6 justices, Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, incredible people, for having the courage to allow this long-term, hard-fought battle to finally end.
So obviously within the word salad, there was a stance that he was explaining, which was states should be able to do what they like to do. But he put that in between, so clearly saying, hey, everybody, blame me. That was a good whistle. Wow. I didn't expect it to come out like that. Blame me for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That he said it a few times, but within his, hey, here's my stance on abortion rights video, he goes, I'm the guy, just remember that, who you should blame for everything that's happening across the country that was enabled by the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So keep me in mind every single time you experience or you hear about the experiences of harm being done to people because of this. And then he says a bunch of stuff in this word salad saying freedom and the will of the people and your faith. But what he's saying is states do whatever you want, then gets to, and just remember to close this out, I'm going to thank the justices because I'm the one who got many of them onto the court who allowed for this to happen. And that is just horrible because we understand the political nightmare this is causing for Republicans. People are rightfully upset and thus motivated to go vote against the extreme lawmakers and extreme positions that they're pushing time and time again. We've gone through the specifics over and over again. previously, even in red states, these direct ballot initiatives going the way of reproductive rights, and people are upset. And Trump is saying, don't forget, I'm the guy you should blame. And I just want to clarify that I'm not, if I got in a second term, the horrible things happening state by state, that's going to keep happening, and it's going to get even worse. And so that's when Brett Meiselas refers to this horrible political miscalculation, the miscalculation. And the alternative, if you're wondering, is Trump could have kept waffling. Now, that's a more dishonest thing to do, but he's Trump. You would think that he would, and just sort of wiggle. And all of his answers were these incomprehensible, bizarre word salads that didn't actually express a view, right? A policy stance. And that allowed for people to abstract in their mind this subject from Donald Trump. I've noticed it in people's discussions about Trump. A lot of people have been able to separate his impact on reproductive freedom from him as the candidate, and the pain, the outrage that people are feeling is not being attached to him enough. But this sort of messaging, again, it's a messaging sandwich, and the two pieces of bread are, hey, I'm to blame for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Now, I will, just to full transparency, say that earlier in the video, before the part I showed you, he did come out in support of IVF. Republicans are panicking over the unpopularity of the attack on IVF, specifically in Alabama. But what's interesting is, and this is what I have to show you next, of course, the majority of Americans are going to be upset with Trump's reminder here that he's the person who caused all of this pain. But it's not far enough for the conservative part of his party, right? They want him to come out in support of a national abortion ban. And so he's perfectly upsetting everyone with that sort of statement. Before we get to the right-wing response that we've seen, here's President Joe Biden's response. Donald Trump, I won't read the whole thing if you're seeing it on screen. Donald Trump made it clear today, again today, that he is, more than anyone in America, the person responsible for ending Roe v. Wade. He is, more than anyone in America, responsible for creating the cruelty and the chaos that has enveloped America since the Dobbs decision. Here's what Donald Trump, jumping down to here, here's what Donald Trump doesn't understand. When he ripped away Roe v. Wade, he ripped away a fundamental right for the women of America the United States Supreme Court had affirmed and reaffirmed for 50 years. As a fundamental right, it didn't matter where you lived. It was granted to you as an American, not as a resident of any state. Generations of women had come to rely on that right. And then I'll jump to the end. As I have said many times since the Dobbs decision, Donald Trump and all those responsible for overturning Roe don't have a clue about the power of women in America, but they're about to find out. And that's the case. I have a lot of hope that November is going to be shocking and undeniable in the way that the motivation to protect and to do so in many cases by undoing some of the laws we've seen, reproductive rights, the protection of that will end up swinging the election in a more major way than most people expect. That's my prediction. The New York Times reports, though, after former President Donald Trump announced his position that abortion rights should be decided by individual states, the leading anti-abortion group supporting Republican candidates said his stance fell short. The Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America's president, Marjorie Dannenfelser, said she was deeply disappointed in Mr. Trump's refusal to endorse a federal ban on abortion. You have Lindsey Graham, who's pushing a federal ban on abortion, said, I respectfully disagree with President Trump's statement that abortion is a states' right issue. Dobbs does not require that conclusion legally, and the pro-life movement has always been about the well-being of the unborn child, not geography. And then Kevin Sorbo, a MAGA actor, said, this is disappointing. Take a stand. And so what Trump's setting up here is rage from the conservative part of his party. And just, again, the status quo. If he hadn't made this video, he could just sort of keep waffling around. Oh, but 15 weeks, but not 15 weeks. I don't know. I did this. I didn't do this. But instead, he's now drawn a line in the sand, sort of, and said essentially he wouldn't support a national abortion ban. That was the whole mumbo jumbo that he spit out about states needing to do what they need to do. And so now you're going to keep hearing from the more conservative part of his party rage at him for not supporting national abortion ban, which then makes Trump have to say, well, wait, but I'm the one who overturned Roe v. Wade. I did that through the justice he got in the court. And that reminds the rest of America, the majority of America, oh yeah, This guy has the worst record imaginable on this subject, and we should punish him politically for the outcome that he's responsible for. And so then Trump turns and goes, no, but I'm just going to leave it up to the states, which to the majority sounds like we're going to have to keep experiencing this horror show across the country. No, thank you. But then again, the conservatives are upset now at Trump because he won't call for a national abortion ban, which would be even worse than the stance he just articulated. And so then he has to say, well, I overturn Roe v. Wade. It's a nightmare for him. And that sort of circular political crisis that's going to be going on for him will cause this issue, yes, to be at the focus of this election for the next few months. And what I've been saying is that's Trump's nightmare scenario. On top of the 4 indictments, on top of him being known to have tried to block the peaceful transfer of power, an attack on our democracy like we've rarely seen, on top of him calling for the termination of the Constitution, being a civilly liable rapist, etc., this reproductive freedoms conversation being front and center for the next few months, game, set, match, if indeed that takes place. And we need to make sure it does take place. And videos like this that now people are going to be referencing for months to come as he gets attacked from his own party and attacked rightfully so from the majority of Americans is going to hurt him so much politically that this bolsters more than almost anything the reason why I tell you all I'm really optimistic about November. And we've seen, I won't go through the list again, but the role this issue has played in major Democratic victories. And so if that again manifests itself as this is helping to make happen in November, then we are in a good spot. So there it is. Trump clarifies his position and upsets everybody. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Drop a comment letting me know what you thought of all of that.